Hi, friends, and welcome to the Fable Girl channel. It is a space to slow down, unwind, and let your creativity flow. Here, I combine the simple joy of coloring with short stories that I have written that are designed to relax your mind and spark whatever inspiration you may need. This is a quiet corner of the internet where every stroke of color feels like a breath of fresh air, and every story invites you to pause and imagine, whether big or small. So get comfortable, grab your favorite colors, grab your favorite drink, maybe a blanket, and let's enjoy this moment together. If this feels like the escape you've been looking for, I'd love for you to subscribe and be part of this colorful journey. In a time before the land had machines and before the machines ruled, there was a place. And in that place, there was a city made up of many villages of people and families of differing backgrounds, looks, colors, and belief. Yet and still, they all lived together in peace, farming the land, exchanging goods with one another. They lived in harmony. And in one particular village, almost everyone who had grown up there knew themselves and their neighbors for a long time. For there were very few outsiders. The founder of the village had traveled north to escape the cold and find a warmer climate. And once they had found such a place, they decided to settle there with their families and had never left. Nevertheless, there was one such house in which everyone within had come from a place outside the village, for it was the home of the children of dear Aunt Mabry, a gentle, soft spoken woman who took in the unwanted who were left on her doorstep. And as Aunt Mabry had never married nor had children of her own, those babes became her family. Aunt Mabry was a quiet soul who lived alone near the outer edge of the village. However, most would describe her as quite unusual. For one, she kept bees, which was a highly irregular thing, as only one other person in the village kept bees. And while that villager's bees gave what the village knew to be the standard color of honey, an amber, her bees gave honey that came in the rainbow of different colors like pink and purple. Along with the bees, she grew fruit trees and berry bushes. And with these and any sap she might collect, she would make sweet treats to barter with at the market for her and her children's necessities. For despite the color of the honey, the treats were loved by all the villages. And every 8 days, when the cool of the afternoon had begun to set in, Aunt Mabry would make her way into town, carrying her treats and small pots of honey, a trail of children surrounding her, hoping to get some treats. She would stroll into the market and set her blanket down, making sure she was far enough away from the carts and the horses that trudged by. And she would set her wares down one by one, not looking up until she had laid out altogether everything that she had come to barter or sell. All the while, the line would begin to grow as the villagers waited patiently for her to finish and begin. And once she began, she would not stop until she had gotten rid of all that she had brought in with her. Then, laden with the items she needed to take home, she would pack up and begin the trek, and long trek that it was, back to her children. As it was a long and arduous walk, because remember, Aunt Mabry's house was on the other side of the village, so she would occupy her time with happy thoughts and memories, and her fondest memory was of her children who had started it all. On that day, after gathering some tree sap, when Mabry was a bit younger, she had begun walking back when she began to hear a gentle cooing sound. She looked around, not sure where the sound was coming from, and then in the corner saw that someone had tried to hide a basket in a thicket of grass near the wood's edge. Nervous, she walked up to the basket and brushed aside the tall grass. Big bright eyes stared back at her, startling her into a smile. And the child, seeing her smile, gurgled again and cooed at her, tugging at her heart. She looked around. There was no one else there. She was all alone. That means this child was all alone, and she could not leave the child to the elements, so she picked the basket up, child and all, and continued on her way home. She had no idea how to take care of a child, but it couldn't be too hard. She had seen the mothers in the market as they moved from booth to booth. She would feed the child tonight with some of the soup she had made and then set out to find their mother in the morning. And so, at her home, she sat by the hearth and did so, making sure to feed the child to contentment. Soon the child was fast asleep in her arms, and she fell asleep soon after. When morning came, Mabry searched high and low, asking villager after villager who walked the paths that wound through the fields and towards the river banks. However, no mother ever came forward, no father appeared, no cousin, sister, brother, aunt, no one. The basket with the grass and silence were her only answer. And so Mabry, who had thought herself destined to live alone, decided then and there that she would not let this little one go without a home. That night, she gave the child a name, Leora, which meant light, for that was what the babe had brought into her quiet life. As the years passed, more children found their way to her doorstep, and they came in different ways. Some came swaddled in blankets, others barely clothed, some carried nothing but wide eyes full of fear, and still, although Mabry never knew who placed them there, she never once turned any of them away. Each time she whispered the words, "You belong here and now, you are mine, and I am yours." That small cottage at the edge of the village that at first seemed destined to be empty was filled with laughter, tears, and the patter of little feet. Mabry learned how to mend scraped knees, calm night terrors, stretch out a pot of stew so it was always enough. She sold more honey, planted more trees, traded for wool and clothes. Her hands, once used only to weave baskets and tend bees, became hands that wove braids, sewed dresses, and held children close when they cried. At first, some villagers thought her odd, and whispers followed her. A woman alone with no husband raising so many? But when they saw the children grow strong and happy, when they tasted the sweetness of her honey and heard her little ones' voices joining the choir at the harvest festivals and more, the whispers softened into admiration. And then one winter, when sickness swept through the land, it was Mabry's orchard that provided fruit preserves to strengthen the weak, and it was her rainbow honey that soothed coughs. Families who once looked at her with suspicion now came to her door with gratitude in their eyes. And then years turned into decades, and her hair grew silver, her steps slower, and her heart remained steadfast. But the children she raised grew into adults who carried these lessons with them: kindness without condition, generosity without measure, and the courage to love those who had no one else. Some became farmers, other healers, and some even traveled to other villages to build lives of their own. But no matter how far they went, they always returned to Aunt Mabry's cottage, bringing their children to sit by her hearth and taste the rainbow honey. As she made her way back to her home, Aunt Mabry thought of how she would soon sit in her rocking chair by the fire, surrounded by her children, dozens, and grandchildren, not born of her, but hers all the same. She knew that she would close her eyes in laughter and smile as they hung and spent time with her, for she knew her legacy would outlive her, not in the honey, not in the orchard, but in the family she had built from abandoned beginnings. And so it was that the house on the edge of the village, once filled with silence, became known for generations as Aunt Mabry's house of many lights. For in that place no child was ever unwanted, no heart unloved, and no soul ever left alone.